Welcome to Positive Waves. My name's Matthew Collinson, and here's my good friend
Joseph Somma, and with us today we have
Ray Chobanian, my good friend. I've known him for just a little while via the internet, which has been a blast, just getting to know him and what he resonates with. But the reason why I'm bringing him to Positive Waves is because he is sending out positive waves. And so welcome, Ray. If you would like to introduce yourself a bit and let us know a little bit about you for a minute or two, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Matthew and Joe, I appreciate the invite. So yeah, Ray Chobanian. Most people can't pronounce the last name, but that's okay. It's an Armenian name, so I tell people if you can say Armenian, you could say Chobanian. So that's how I help people remember that. So not that it's of utmost importance, but anyway, yeah. So I'm a guy of many different talents, traits, like I think a lot of us are, but the things that I do most in life, well, first I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've pretty much been here most of my adult life and childhood too. I was born in Virginia, but so yeah, I love it here because it's like the land of Carnegie, and anyone that's ever like read or studied the book Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon, written by Napoleon Hill, then you kind of maybe know the story about Andrew Carnegie and how he helped him, how he got him to write that book, inspired him. And this is where he built his steel empire, Andrew Carnegie. And so there's like the Carnegie museums, and there's a town called Carnegie down the road. And so I always really like that. It's awe inspiring to me. Just to know that I live in that era that like Andrew Carnegie used to walk these streets, so it's pretty cool. But so yeah, I have a marketing agency, marketing and branding we do. So really like graphic design, and also helping business owners get traffic leads that are qualified for them. We do web development and web design, and also social media content and posting. I've worked with coaches. I've worked with people in industrial services. I've worked with alchemists. It's been very interesting to work with some of those guys. One in particular comes to mind that's just fascinating to me. So I kind of, it's kind of where I fit, within me with my client base, is like people like more trying to expand their kind of little maybe esoteric, kind of spiritual for sure, more open, and kind of what led me to that, just real quick, because I know I'm probably over my 2 minutes, is a path like riddled with horrible drug addiction. And so the recovery process is such a spiritual like awakening within the self. And I'm not saying religion. I'm just saying there's something about the process of getting clean that opens you up to a higher power, whatever you choose to call that. I have mine defined, but yeah, so that's something I'm really, I have a group that I help people recover with. We just had a group last night. It was amazing. And it's been over a year now I've been doing it, and it's just been slowly growing. And I keep getting like one more person will come and they'll stay, and another person will come a couple months later and they'll stay. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. And then these people, their testimonies of their lives and how it's changing. And it's just a beautiful thing, man. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and like what I'm about.
All good, man. That was perfect. That segues perfectly into what we wanted to talk about anyway, which is personal development. When I sent you the message inquiring whether you wanted to be on the show, and you said yes, I asked, well, what do you want to talk about? And that was what you came back to me with. So personal development, man, it's such a huge thing. It's a lifetime journey for everybody, I feel. And I think that between all of our journeys here, we could maybe drop some nuggets for some people around the world that want to improve themselves. And this is the perfect platform for that. That's what I love about YouTube. And I know you do the same thing. So if you want, you could start with that piece of your journey and kind of tell us what led you to personal development, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So I gotta sum it up easily. So basically, I started getting high when I was 12 years old, and because I thought everything was great in my house. I thought mom and dad loved each other and everything was great, and I had like this great childhood. And I didn't, at that age, you don't really see things going on with your parents' relationship. They try to keep it from you and stuff. So anyway, when I was 12, they separated, and it was like the biggest rug pull of my life. And it just shattered my whole foundation. I didn't know how to process all the feelings and emotions I was going through, and it just really it just really changed me, man. I was like a happy, like would never get into trouble kind of kid. I didn't even want to see anything bad. I was like, to like being completely rebellious. I wore like all these chains and bondage pants and straps and huge mohawks and Liberty spikes and all that, you know what I mean? And was real into like dark things and just the darker stuff in life. And anyway, at the age of 13, someone turned me on to heroin. And 14, I started shooting it. And by 15, I was a full blown heroin addict, man, like shooting up multiple times a day, robbing, stealing, running the streets, the projects, the ghettos, just trying to do whatever I could to get the next one and stay alive to get one more high, and that went on for most of my life. At 19, I had a near fatal overdose. I say near fatal because I was revived. I was dead for 16 and a half minutes. And at that point, my heroin habit was like really out of control. And it wasn't just that, it was any drug I could get my hands on and getting a needle, it was going in, didn't matter how much of it, the more the better, and I was just like wild and out of control and trouble with the cops. And then, got into dealing and then that whole mess. And oh man. So 3 months, so 19, I had that overdose. I decided to quit somehow with willpower alone, which isn't enough, by the way. It might work for a little bit, but I got clean. I stayed clean for a few years. But 3 months into that, I had a freak accident, man. I fell 40 feet over this cliff, split my head wide open, split my side wide open. I mean, I was just split open. Like I could see my insides. I lost about 90% of the blood in my body. I was life flight. I had another near death experience. I had one with the overdose, and like God talked to me. And then I had another one with this on the helicopter flight. And I saw, like, people call it the Akashic records, or like every scene of your life flashes before your eyes. Like I clearly and vividly saw that. And then I had to like sit awake for this operation for like 4.5 hours because I'd lost so much blood. They couldn't like give me anything or put me under anything. And so I got through that. I had like temporary amnesia. I was urinating blood for like 2 months. I mean, it was just, I couldn't even walk. I didn't remember things. And it was just crazy. It was a crazy time. So, um, so then I got my life a little bit back together, got married and was doing good. And then marriage started going south. I relapsed because I thought I could just do it once, There was an opportunity that presented itself to me randomly, without me even looking for it.
The
And yeah,
test.
something engaged. What's that?
The test.
Yes, and I really failed it, man. I failed that test. And but it was a very good teaching moment. I think I needed that test and I needed to fail it. So anyway, so in my going throughout my 20s, it was just crazy. And um I ended up homeless, like late 20s, homeless on the streets. So I like kind of started my journey with two garbage bags of clothes, and that was it. Just me and the two garbage bags of clothes. And yeah, so I started getting in recovery. I went to treatment many times, but the last time I stayed long term. Then I went to a halfway house for like 6 months, and I went to a three-quarter house for a year. And then I finally was able to get on my feet a little bit. And there was many challenges in that period, but just summing it up. But yeah, so I started to learn things and I started to see this change in me. And then people were starting to look to me for like leadership and like, Ray, how do we do this? And I'm just like, you're asking me, man. Like I'm still trying to figure it out. But that was like the role I was kind of falling into. And yeah, so a couple years ago, fast forward, right before COVID happened and they like kind of shut down everything. I started listening to personal development videos on YouTube at work, and I heard a Bob Proctor video, and it was the law of vibration. It's like a 2.5 hour thing with him. There's like a blue background and a talk he did, and I was like weeping because I never heard anyone talk like that. But he was like confirming truth within me that I knew, but like society covered over with all the crap, and something changed in me that day, and so I like reached out to the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and they actually got back to me, and I got scared. I sat on it for a month. I sat on the email for a whole month, and then I finally replied, and I had a call with Bill Banta. He's one of the top coaches there, and he said, Ray, you got to quit spraying Roundup on your freshly planted garden. And that just something about that hit me. And I was like, man, like I got it. And I understood what he meant. And it really like hit. And so, yeah, I couldn't afford the coaching at the time. And so I joined their community, which I could afford. And just things, man, it was like, pieces started coming together, like the paradigm and how you change it and repetition, and our thoughts create the reality. And so I was looking back from being like a hopeless, homeless, strung out heroin addict on the streets to like now respecting myself and having healthy relationships and restoring relationships and helping others to get through this crazy addiction stuff. And I said, wow, that's what I did. Like I changed the paradigm, and I didn't even know. It just happened naturally. And I just stuck with it. And so I started to say, what if I could create a group that kind of because and I'm like an NA guy, Narcotics Anonymous, and even in AA, they don't tell you scientifically really what's going on. They just say, you got to do this. We strongly suggest you do this. And so once I started studying Bob's material, I said, wow, there's a lot of things that are starting to fill in the gaps. The pieces are coming together. And what if I could like help some other people fill in those gaps along the way? I said, man, that'd be really hard. I wish I had someone to like do that for me, like kind of explain to me what exactly is going on here. And so yeah, around that, it was like right before that, I had met my current girlfriend, and she took me to her church, and they had this recovery group that used to be, but was no longer. Like it was just dead. Nobody was doing it. It was gone. And she's like, wouldn't that be something if you led that group one day? And yeah, that's the group I lead today. It was like almost a 2-year journey to kind of get that going, and I had to get the group approved by the board and all this stuff, man. And it was a while. It took a lot of meetings and meeting with people and all kinds of stuff. And it started small, we started online on Zoom, and then as COVID started to kind of dissipate, people started falling off. So we started in person, and the first in-person meeting was one person showed up. And I said, great, that's cool. And then the next week, one person showed up, and it was the same person. And this person just really wanted, and I was like, man, this is great. Like I can help somebody. And slowly, a few months later, another person, and he stayed, and I sponsor that guy now today. And then they brought another person. And so now I've got a small group. It's grown, 5 or 6 people who regularly come, and we're about a year into meeting in person. So that's kind of like, I don't know, man. I just felt this strong pull, like in my heart, to do this. Like this is what I'm supposed to do. And all that stuff from my history, I've learned was simply just a training to fulfill my purpose in life. It's like you got to go through this to understand it, so you can help other people through it. And I think we can all relate to that, with things we've gone through in our lives, like something that has been traumatic or difficult for us. And if we just look at it like a training, well, now we can use it for something good instead of like, because I mean, what good could possibly come out of that, and here it is. So, but when you're going through it, you don't see it. I didn't look at it that way. I thought, man, like I really screwed up my life. Like this is irreversible. I'll never have any trust again. No one will ever love me. All this stuff. Like I'm not worthy. Um, and then I started to see, wow, like I am gaining some of that back, and I am worthy, and it can be like turned around. You can turn around, and so yeah, all that experience just has shaped me, molded me, and really shown me what the human body and soul is capable of. We have a lot more strength than we give ourselves credit for. I think even going through all that, I still sell myself short sometimes.
Ray,
But
I
yeah,
gotta say, what a life journey, man. And congratulations for not letting life crush you like so many of us have. I have a similar journey where I had a heavy drug addiction due to family issues, and we won't go into detail now, but that struggle is real for so many, and so many let it crush them. They don't have that love for themselves to know that it's just a moment in time. They, for me personally, I let it crush me. I fell into that drug and alcohol use. I have a good solid 10 years of life where I have very few memories because of the amount of abuse I was putting into my body. So it's amazing how far you have come, and that you followed your heart to where you are now, where you're helping people come through, and you're just doing the simple things that we all want to do. We want to walk through this life with as little chaos as possible. And here you are literally walking others through, and it started with one, and that was yourself. And then you got to two in your group, and now you're up, what, five or six or something. Thank you, sir. Inspiration, man. Thank you.
thank you, Joe. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, and I just it's just so interesting how you see it all unfold. And through studying like the personal development material and coming up on struggles and stuff, I fortunately I had the understanding, because if I wouldn't have had that understanding before, I would have said, man, there's only one person coming, like this, I might as well just quit, like that would have been the old me. Like, man, only one person. But I had realized that it's just about helping someone, and if you could just help someone, then like that's great, man, and
It
and
echoes
I
out and
knew,
grows.
yeah, and pretty much, yeah, and I knew it would just grow as long as I just kept taking the next right, doing the next right thing, and take the next step in faith. And yeah, so I had a realization last night, like, wow, this, let me say, like, the 5 or 6 people that come too are dedicated, and so I'd rather have 5 or 6 that are actually like dedicated and doing the work than 5 or 600 that, that would probably be a lot more frustrating, so so
Well,
yeah, I mean, it'll get
as
there,
it
man.
echoes out, those five you're working with now are going to turn it into 5 or 600, because you will be the one giving advice, and it'll just keep trickling down the line for all of those that struggle to figure it out and seek that guidance from you because you had. So it'll get there. It may not be all on you as one, but that ripple effect is definitely flowing out into the sea, sending them positive waves out. So you're doing it, man. You're doing it.
Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I've had one of the women in my group say that she's been able to kind of give some of the stuff I've shown them to her kid, her young son, and some of her coworkers and her husband. And so you're right, and it's just like, wow, we don't realize the impact of our actions. We really don't even know the depth of where it'll lead.
Oh my
So
God,
yeah,
I
man, you
love
hit the
that.
nail on the head.
I love that so much, man. That ripple effect is amazing. Yeah, that's the awareness of that. Once you become aware of the effect that we have on each other, one person at a time, one interaction at a time, we realize how powerful we truly are, because that actually allows us to shift, like, how we want to shift. It allows us to go towards that vision. And that's what I've dug about the personal development world the past 15, 20 years, is that reason. And I want to go back to some of the things you were saying though during your story, because of those dark things that you saw or whatever, and those dark pieces. It's funny because I was just having a conversation with Gloria Schultz. She's a health coach and a part of the whole Theory of Five thing. And the cool part about the conversation that I got from her was that she had uh, read about the study that was done about people watching The Omen. And they had like stuff attached and everything. And it showed that their whole immune system was compromised for 30 days after watching the movie. So
Wow.
if that's the case, then that's how we're all affected inherently. So with everything that we're taking in, whether it's a show, a movie, um, audible music, all of it, everything matters. Everything really kind of mixes together and creates this alchemy, essentially, that we are, these energetic beings that experience this beingness, I guess.
Mm.
And I think that we need to remember these things, because that's how we're going to be able to grow and evolve into whatever it is we're becoming, you know? I feel like very strongly about that, though.
Absolutely, man. I can speak on that too. So what I learned, and if you guys have ever, you struggle with addictions, and you'll probably get this too, loud and clear. So if connection to spirit is something that I, in my natural state, am supposed to have and experience a strong connection to source, we'll say. um and so when I go and I take a substance, and operating on the idea of the reality that everything is vibration, right? So everything operates on a frequency. So when I take a substance, and that substance is on a frequency, and I put it into my body, it becomes me, and I take on that frequency. So now I'm starting to sever the tie with spirit, right? Because I have a block there now. And so what that, so there's two sides, right? So I'm severing the tie to the light side, if you will, and I'm opening up the portal to the dark side. And I literally experienced that in my life, where I was so spiritually dead that I had demonic visits, attacks, like every single night for years, man. I mean, visible, solid demons appearing in my room, trying to possess me. I mean, man, it was just crazy. So, and I learned through that's what I was doing. Like, it's like that you become visible to that whenever you put this stuff in you. You become visible, and we're severing the tie with what we need the most, that source. And so, yeah, I mean, everything, this stuff that we watch, it definitely has a similar impact, man. That's crazy. It's like epigenetics, it sounds like you're talking about. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about that, but yeah, it all matters. It really does.
Now, Joe, doesn't Darla, I thought she was playing in the Akashic Records arena. Is that accurate?
We're practicing, both her and I.
Okay, I was curious about it just because I know Ray had just said he had passed through or was viewing those in that realm that he was in, which is always an interesting concept to me, only because I haven't experienced that part of it. I've experienced a lot of things in meditation, but I haven't quite gotten to there yet.
Mm.
Yeah, it was for me an experienced medium guided me through, and I've done a couple trips in, but I'm not at a point where I'm ready to walk somebody else through. I'm still pretty shaky on my own journey. So yeah, sooner or later though, we'll definitely be much better.
What has your research been on that, Ray?
Well, so I kind of come at it from a Christian standpoint of view. So, in the Bible talks about the book, like God keeps this record, this book of records of all of us, and everything that was ever done in every moment in time. And so I really do believe in that, our names would be written in his book. So I really do believe that exists now. I mean, I've seen it. I don't know how to explain it. I just remember it being like this mystical. So let me kind of paint the picture. So I'm on this helicopter, and everything is going gray, and the medics are screaming at me to keep my eyes open, because all I want to do is just go to sleep. I was dying, and in that moment, it was like, so everything was gray. I could barely hear. Everything was just fading out. Like Call of Duty, when you're dying in Call of Duty, like that video game, it was like that. And so I think they really got that from real life experiences, honestly, because it's so similar. funny enough. But and then I just seen like it was like these translucent slides, but they were in very bright color, but it was a little blurry, and like everything glowed. And every one of these slides were just like scenes in my life. Like there I was, a little boy, like running through a field and the green grass, and there I was with my mom, there I was with my dad, there I was doing this bad thing, there I was doing a good thing, there I was doing another bad thing, and there I was with my ex-girlfriend. And it was just like all of these almost like someone took a book and just flipped the pages, you know. It was kind of like that, but I got it all in like a matter of seconds, you know. I experienced it all, and it was just I really I don't know what to like make out of all that. I don't really know. I
It's
don't know what to think.
it's like the snapshot of every visual you ever had in your entire life is flashed before you so quickly. It's a millisecond, but in
Yeah.
this theta state that your brain is in, time doesn't exist. So that millisecond can feel like an eternity, and you're literally reliving every moment of your life while that's, being flashed before you.
It's funny
Yeah,
that this is being brought up. Sorry, Ray.
you're
Uh,
good.
Only because it just triggered something in me. And all right, so when I was born, I was born up with a cardiological defect. I have a genetic heart defect. And so at 3 weeks old, I went into cardiac failure essentially, and they had to bring me back. So I was teeny. And then 6 months later, they had to do a thing called transpositional surgery of the great artery, which is where they have to like go in and put a shunt inside there and make it it's still my left side of my heart still pumps to my body, which is supposed to pump to your lungs, and the right side is the opposite. So that pumps to my body instead.
Hmm.
Or something like that. Sorry, I'm not very detailed on that one. And my wife's laughing at me now, which makes sense. But the side that's supposed to pump to your lungs is pumping to my body, and the side that's pumping to my body is pumping to my lungs. So it's kind of a thing to where I've always had to be careful with it, and it has caused me to go away for a while. So
Hmm.
I feel like at that moment though, I have a blank page, a blank memory of like nothingness kind of, but for some reason I remember that piece, only that piece, like just the blankness. And I was like, when you were mentioning that about how life was flashing before your eyes, if I was only 3 weeks old, I had only experienced, a blank, so I think my thought was that I don't want to be done with a blank page,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. I know it was a big ramble to get there, but it's like I don't want to die with a blank page. And I think that's been a big factor in me going towards the life that I've approached and becoming this dream creator. So I thought that was a big boom moment in my head. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, that's wow, that's awesome, man. That's a really good perspective. That you had that so early in your life that almost hard to remember, I'm sure. And that it kind of shaped so much of your life. That's amazing. So wow. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. Huh. I never thought about like what about the blank pages when you're, no one thinks about that. So wow. But that's kind of good. It's like you're the author of your life. We hear that a lot too. Like be the star of your movie, or you're the author, be the main character in your movie. And so yeah, sounds like it's what's going on there.
Exactly. I think it's so cool. But that's what I love about all of our lives like that, though. It really is. It's like we can all choose to live towards something, or we can choose not to put anything on our page. It's really up to us, but we haven't been given, we weren't raised given that choice, I feel. Like I give my kids pretty much free reign as far as finding their anchor, what it is they're choosing to be passionate about, where they're going in life. It's not really my choice. That's their choice to live that life. So if that's the case, then who am I to have a say in it, kind of thing? In the realm of making sure they're not in danger and that kind of thing, of course.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that's clear. It really is about like that finding yourself. When I was watching Wayne Dyer, that guy triggered me a lot as far as like finding how I wanted to live my life in that flowing state. Um, he talks about how when he was writing before he died, how he would get into the conscious flow state and how it would just kind of flow through him and go onto the page. That's kind of what I do with everything that I do in my life, whether it's coaching, editing and film and doing this stuff, podcasting, all kinds of fun, right? I just try to
Mhm.
get the best that I possibly can in any given scenario, good or bad. It kind of turns out I learn a lot of lessons along the way, but that's the good thing. And that's the part of the personal development journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I know one of the things we said we wanted to maybe touch on were like some tools coming up on like fear on your journey or towards your goal, and like how, how do you get past that, and well, going back to the Bob Proctor school, he talks about the terror barrier and how we come up where you just know you're going to come up on that when you're working towards something greater than yourself or something big, a goal. Sometimes even small things, right? We come up on a terror barrier, and it's like a wall that we just smash off of. And our job is to smash through it. And so I think one of the tools, probably the best tool, is just studying, having the understanding of what's going on. And that's a lot of what Bob taught was there's really only one problem, and in the whole world there's one problem, and that might sound crazy, but it's ignorance. That's the only problem. And so what is the antidote for ignorance? Well, it's knowledge and understanding, and then applying that, so going up to that fear, hitting that terror barrier, which we all experience, even like the most successful people on earth, they still go up to that, but they've made it a habit of breaking through it. So when they feel it and they come up to it, they just know what to do. They know, okay, this is what I go through. I plow through this because I know from experience on the other side of that is the freedom that I'm seeking, but that fear, this false illusion, is keeping me from being free. So it's just having like the knowledge and understanding, but in the moment, it's nice to talk about and say, but in the moment when it's really happening, like, do we remember that and then apply it? That's the tricky part. So I think it's like repetition.
Yeah. It's easier to teach than to do. Needless to say, I
Uh-huh.
think we all go through that.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely a confidence booster to start off with those smaller fears. Don't try and conquer the world in one day. Start a little bit smaller and get yourself comfortable with stepping into that fear and knowing that you can do it. Like you said, the knowledge. Without that knowledge, that's why we're scared. We have that lack of knowing, which makes it scary because, what do we do? How are we going to react? We prefer to be scripted. We prefer to know what's coming up next, what's expected, or how we're going to handle what's to come. And without having any of that, we get locked. We get stuck. We don't want to proceed forward. We have too many what ifs, and then our brain just stops us, freezes us, and puts us back into that safe zone where we're really not growing or doing anything. We're just sitting in a place that feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the importance of the tools that I think Ray is touching on, though. And that's like keeping those tools around you in order to access them whenever you need them. And that's, I think, a big piece of why I love like the community that I keep now with you guys, for instance. Like I can talk to either one of you guys if I'm having an issue, and one of you guys will be there for me, and you have time. That's just the way it happens. That's how relationships are built. But I think that's the important piece in all of this journey, especially when you get into personal development of any kind, is keeping a community of personal development people around you consistently, and filtering it as it goes along, because you're going to grow and you're going to learn to do new things, and you're going to want to fly in your own path, and that's a beautiful thing.
Mm, yeah, we were actually we were talking about that last night in my group actually. So like we are organisms, you know, as individuals, but we need that community's organism, you know, when you're with a group of people, that's like it's a living organism. And so the energies of that group they start to become you, you know. So we want, as humans, I think we just want to fit in a lot of times. We maybe not all the time, but we want a sense of belonging, a part of something. That's an innate thing within us. And the point is, you know, surrounding ourselves with people who are like motivated, exceptional, heading in the right direction, wanting to grow in their life. Because my old crew, they were just people just putting veins in their arms all day long. You know what I mean? And like robbing people and doing heinous acts, you know. And so I was, you know, and that's what I was in harmony with. And so everything had to go. It was a complete clearing out. And so now I'm like, I take it very seriously now that I have like my power of choice back, who I surround myself with. And to the point where like some people get upset sometimes, and I'm like, that's okay, you know, that's fine. I get to choose who I'm around today, you know, and that's beautiful. And so I do that. Uh, I just don't want to be around people who are going to bring me down, just to put it simple. But I do want to inspire others, you know, for sure. So, but some people aren't they just want to be like you were saying, Joe. Some people just want to like be in that comfort zone of where they're at, and that's not always a good place. So I've learned when I'm comfortable too long, that's a red flag, you know. Yeah. Yeah, like get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where you kind of want to stay, because as soon as I start to get complacent and comfortable, man, my life stops moving forward, and so do I. And then I start to revert. Like just because I got to this point doesn't mean I can't go back to where I was. Not that I ever want to, but
So
I'm
it's
not
like the
like we're
description
not immune.
It's
What's
like the
that?
description of the car earlier where you put it into neutral and then into drive. Well, you're driving uphill and you just slipped it into neutral. You're starting to roll backwards into those old tendencies, those old habits.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it, man. That's definitely it. So yeah, and I mean, and I have done that even recently. Like we have periods, you know, we have seasons we go through, and where it's been in neutral, and I've started to slip backwards a bit, and then I'm like, okay, I need some accountability. I need to like, who are the people around me I can use again, and to help me, that want to support me. So it's like it doesn't stop. It's not like we get to some magical place within ourselves that we're done. You know, it's infinite. It's infinite. We're infinite beings in an infinite universe, and there's infinite growth, and I think there's also infinite death.
Yeah,
You know, so yeah.
it's true. We are specks of dust. That is it. And that's okay. It just is the isness of our existence right now. Um, that's why I think it's important for consistency, though, too. Whether you're in your highs, your lows, or your middles, if you have a consistent routine of like meeting people like we do here, uh, then it starts to produce a compound effect in your life. It starts to make it much easier when you fall to stand back up, because it's so much faster when you can get 9 other perspectives on it, or whatever. You know, it doesn't really matter. But if you're reaching out and being vulnerable with people that can handle that and know what to do in that scenario, then it really starts to give you new ideas as to how much you can accomplish and what you can accomplish with what you have. We all have the same amount of time in the day. What's the difference between you and Elon Musk? You know, what's the difference between you and Oprah? You know, all these people have the same amount of time that we have. Now, how are we using that time? Now I use it personally. I'm like, one of my big tools is meditation. I love meditation. That's my favorite tool in the world. I love going inwards, but I'm an introvert, which makes sense. Uh, I've just learned how over the years how to do it because I made it into my daily habit. Had to be
Mm,
that daily habit. And I had to surround myself with others that were doing it.
mm, mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's like when you start to build that foundation, the setbacks, if you will, they aren't as like negatively impactful like they used to be. Yeah. So like you said, the habit. So it's like kind of like that the terror barrier thing. Like people that have learned to go through that, when they come up to that, now they know, okay, this is what I do when I come to this. And I'd say the first thing is like the very first thing has to be like, if we can talk about this, but if we're not on a personal, like individual level aware of it, that's where it starts, is the self-awareness of like, okay, what are my dominating thoughts throughout the day that are keeping me from where I'm at to where I want to go, thoughts and feelings. And then if we can just like write that down and recognize it and say, okay, now what would the opposite of that be? Like the exact opposite, and write that down and then affirm that to ourselves and go through this process of like, then we'll start to become more aware. And then in the moment, you get to a point where it's like, I'm not giving my power away to this situation or this person, like I had an incident a few months ago that it comes to mind where I was driving down the street. It was like a Saturday morning. There was like nobody on the streets. And I pull into this like little convenience store, and I'm getting out of my car and I'm going to walk in, and this guy just comes running or sprinting up to me as fast as he can. And he's like beat red. He's like kind of like, he looks like he had a rough night, like he's got a hangover or something, or maybe still a little drunk. And he starts just going off on me, screaming at me, saying calling me all these things. And I'm just like, I kind of laughed because I thought it was a joke at first. I was like, "Psh," and I didn't understand what was going on. And he's like, you cut my girlfriend off and you almost caused her to, and I'm like, man, I'm like, there is nobody on the street. I'm like, what are you, and I was like, you're serious? And he's like, can't you tell him? And so this guy, he's like trying to, man, he's just going off, and he's like really trying to get a rise out of me. And my first instinct was like, okay, just go for this guy's throat, put him out of his misery, And then I was like, wait a second. In that moment, I'm like, who do I want to be? And who am I out here representing, So like, so I was like, I know who I want to be, and I know him. So I just in that moment, I said, look, man, I'm not really sure what the problem is, but I didn't see anything or anybody or purposely cut anybody off. I said, if I did, sorry, like, even though I know darn well I didn't, but I just was trying to de-escalate that. I was like, relax, man, relax. It's not, and he just couldn't have it. So but I just walked away. And as I'm walking away, he starts calling me more names, like, he's next time I see you, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, well, I'm right here now, and so some people, man, I just pray for. And but it showed me in that moment, like, these things that I'm learning are actually sinking in, because the old me, I would have just fought the guy to the death, and probably ended up in jail or worse, uh yeah, that's just, there's no, that would be giving my power over to him, to that situation. And that's what the situation wants, and it's, but what would the outcome of that be? So it's like thinking of all that stuff in that split moment, that we don't have much time to like respond. And that's the difference. So it's like a response instead of a reaction. And when we don't give our power over to that, that's a victory. It's a victory. So yeah, it's like just becoming aware of those things. And then when those times hit us out of the blue, unexpected, we're like equipped to handle it. Not saying I'm perfect or anything, but it's made a big difference just becoming aware.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from on that. I recognize that in one of I think junior or senior year of high school. I had moved to a new school from New York and stuff like that, but I'd been doing martial arts for a long while at that point. So um, these guys that decided to, pick on the new kid came up to me and tried to wrap some film around my neck. And they were football people or whatever. So they were in a group, of course. So I dropped the kid. Like I went around and like kicked his knee lightly. I didn't go to break it because I knew I could. I knew what I was capable of. I just knew I didn't want to hurt anybody. But I kicked it lightly, dropped him down, put my fist up and put him in between me and the other guys. And I was like, "Are you done?" He was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right." Sorry. He came up to me a little later and was like, "Well, I got a bruise on my knee." I was like, "I could have done a lot worse. It's the fact that I don't, I don't want any problems." Like, but that was when I first recognized that exact power that you're talking about. That, oh man, I had the opportunity. I could have gone all in and gone to fight 6 guys. Oh yeah, I'm sure that would have been real fun, Matt.
Yeah, right.
You're like,
Right.
"This is probably for the best, and I'm glad I don't have to do that now."
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes with maturity as well, because I mean, I know when I was like in my younger years, like teenage years and 20s, I mean, I was just crazy, So I was very I would look for trouble, So
I do.
it comes with like maturity as well. But you don't have to be 30 or 40 years old to get that, You can be a teenager and like you're saying, I mean, you're probably a teenager around that time. And so yeah, I mean that's a really good example and kudos to you, man. I don't know if I don't know what I would have done. Of course, I got picked on a lot when I was like grade school and some middle school. I got picked on a lot, but um I think I just like laughed with them because I thought that was the best way to handle. I didn't know how else to handle it at that age. But and yeah, I remember one time I used to get beat up like every day in grade school, and this kid just used to at recess, he would always just start punching me and stuff. And this went on for like 2 years. Then one day I just had enough and I just punched him square in the face right between the eyes, and like he never bothered me again. Yeah, but anyway.
That's funny. All right, old war stories. We should probably
Yeah,
not go there. We got to finish
yeah,
up. Uh,
yeah.
so one last tool for anyone to use that can hear this podcast, guys. So come up with one tool you want someone to use today, tomorrow, whenever they need it. Go.
Yeah, okay, I'll go. I mean, I would have to say, and not to be repetitive, but I would just have to say, like, becoming aware. So for 30 days, if you can write down the thoughts that you're having and the feelings that you're having, uh, and that your reactions to life for 30 days, if you can do this and just say and discipline yourself to write down, okay, I didn't feel worthy. This person upset me and I allowed it to take me to this place. If you can start to do that, we will start to see the pattern of our reactions in our life, and we'll gain awareness of that. So then we just want to look at that and say, what would the opposite of this be? What would the polar opposite be? So I am worthy. I don't allow people to take me off my center, and like I'm so happy and grateful. I'm always becoming the person I want to be, you know, and write this, because there's something about the writing. Don't type it. Don't just think it, write it down. And there's something about that gets it in there in your brain. So if we can do that just for 30 days, I think that's a powerful tool. I think if anyone does do that, you'll see a major change, because you first must become aware, and there's so much we're not aware of still, but it's like we don't even know we don't know. But I think that's the tool that I would suggest for people to start with, and to use, even if you're a long time into personal development. I mean, it never stops. We can always do that, That's
Awesome.
mine.
Thank you, Ray. How about
Yeah.
you,
The rebel deck chose laugh. Where the fuck is your sense of humor? And that's the truth.
Joe?
You can't be so serious all the time. Yes, there are moments you should be, but add a little laughter to your life. Allow that stress to dissolve. Allow those endorphins to be released into the brain to allow you to realize it's not as bad as you're making it out to be.
Mm.
So
Oh yeah.
thank you
That's
for that
great.
card pull.
That's nice. Yeah, don't allow the heart to become hardened due to the circumstances. Yeah, that's kind of how I take that. Yeah, have a soft heart. Yeah, don't become calloused. Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah, laugh every day.
I love that. And for
Awesome.
me, it's breathe. Breathe. People just take a breath, one single breath, focus on that one breath. You'll feel so much better in life. And Ray, how can people find you, or where would you like people to go to if they want to get in contact with you and what you do?
Okay, so there's a couple ways. One, you can email me if you'd like, jpdesign989@gmail.com. You can email me. Another thing, if you look up, I have two podcasts, one that I haven't really been doing, the other one is still going, but if you look up the Legendary Living podcast, you'll find me there. You can leave a comment on YouTube, or the Ray's Recovery Podcast, RAISE. So that's a channel I started to kind of bring some tools in to help people through their addiction, talk to some different people and their journeys and stories and how they've kind of gotten through it. So you can get some more encouragement there. Even my story is on the Legendary Living Podcast. I told more in depth about my experience. So yeah, I mean, if you leave me a comment, I'll definitely see it, or you can send me a personal email, or on Facebook. Just look up Ray Chobanian, you'll see me. Feel free to send me a message, man. I'm always here to help people. And if like you know anyone that's struggling with addiction or something like that, you know, by all means, reach out, and I always do what I can to help. You know.
Beautiful. And with that, thank you for joining us on Positive Waves. I'm Matthew Collinson.
I'm Joseph Somma.